Hi Foxes, and welcome back to my channel. This is Brittany from SHOPFOXBURROW on the Poshmark app. I'm also SHOPFOXBURROW on Etsy and Instagram, and I am a seller of vintage and modern clothing on apps like Poshmark and on Etsy. And recently I went to an estate sale and picked up a bunch of shoes, but all of them definitely needed some cleaning. So I thought I would let you guys work with me today, kind of see my process and what I'm doing. And this nice little heater is drying my hair while I do my work. And so yeah, I'm going to show you first what I have with me to clean up. So these are just basically like Clorox wipes, but they don't have bleach in them. And I get these at Aldi. They're pretty cheap. They're like $3 something a bottle. I have a leather polish kit. So this is brown and black polish. I have kiwi leather lotion, which is good for cleaning. I have Dr. Martens Wonder Balsam, and I have a white rubber eraser and a microfiber and a cotton washcloth. So the first thing I'm gonna do is pop open a box of shoes. And so these are Danex lace-up leather shoes. They're in pretty good shape overall, but I'm just gonna wipe them up and give them a little bit of love with the Wonder Balsam and see how they turn out. First thing I'm gonna do with these is to just wipe them down with a cloth. Gonna clean up the soles a little bit with the cloth. I'm gonna go ahead and take my Wonder Balsam. When you open it up, it has a little sponge inside. And that is what you use to apply the balsam. It has a little tub where the sponge can rest. And this is the balsam. I believe it is a beeswax base. I don't know, it doesn't say, but it works great. And it's just gonna make the leather soft again. So one of the problems with vintage leather is that it can crack. If it's not cared for, then the leather is not gonna stay supple and it's going to crack, and then your buyer is gonna get it. And once it starts cracking, there's really not a lot you can do to save it. Sometimes you can take it to a shoe repair shop and they'll be able to sort of sand it off and work on refinishing the leather. But as for a finished leather that is cracked, there's not a lot you can do. So these were in good shape overall. And I just went ahead and applied some Wonder Balsam to them. So I'm going to do the other shoe, and then I'll come back and show you my next pair. Okay, so the next pair I've got is a pair of vintage Amalfi shoes, and I loved the sort of brogue wingtip look to them, and they do have some issues. So you can kind of see the suede has a little bit of staining, so we're going to work on that. And then the leather, you remember how I said the cracked leather was kind of dangerous, so we're going to recondition that and call that out in the listing and let people know that that leather is cracked or getting close to it. And these had rubber soles, and it looks like somebody walked on carpet. You can kind of see how weird and fuzzy they are. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Clorox wipe. Because I'm going to have my hand in the shoe, I'm going to Clorox the inside of the shoe. Now, I don't think that these shoes are going to have any kind of athlete's foot or anything like that. These shoes have not been worn in probably 30 or 40 years. So I'm not too worried about that. I just want to make sure there's no weird stuff going on inside of there. Then I'm going to take my cotton cloth, just dry that out so that the wetness doesn't sit inside of the shoe. Alright, and then I'm going to keep this cotton cloth on my hand just to give me a better grip. And I should have been a little more careful. I did get a little bit of wetness on the suede, but it should be alright. So the next thing I want is my eraser. This is just like a white, sorry, I know it's kind of washing it out, but it is a white pencil eraser. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just rub the specific stain spots of the suede. And it should carry a lot of it away when I dust it off. Alright, so let's see if I can... So can you see here it's just a little bit dingy right there. So what I'm going to do is just rub this suede with the pencil eraser. And if you follow me on Instagram, I actually have videos about how to do a lot of these things individually. And I do have a video about cleaning suede, including cleaning suede that's like a deeper sort of dirty than this is, which you can do with a combination of vinegar, water, and a toothbrush. So I'm just going to dust that off. And you can see it's a little bit better there. It's a little cleaner. So I'm going to grab this spot and yeah. That's done. I'm going to see what I can do about this fuzz that's on here. My gut feeling is that I'm gonna need some sandpaper to take some of this fur off. Okay, so it's, yeah, the wipes are not working. You can still see like that is all furry. I'm gonna go grab some sandpaper and come right back. Okay. This is what is called a sandpaper block. It's sandpaper with foam inside. And so what I'm going to do is just see if I can't get some of this off. Another thing you can do, if your soles are sticky or tacky, which happens sometimes with these rubber soles, is to sprinkle them with baby powder and rub it in, and the baby powder will kind of stick to the sole and take away that tackiness. But it is working. So, let me wipe it down. Okay. Now you can see there's a little bit of hairs there, but nothing like it was before. And particularly like not around the edges, which was really bothering me. Like I don't want someone seeing a bunch of like hair sticking off the edge of the shoe. So I'll work on this a tiny bit more with the sandpaper, but that worked great, so I'm happy with that. Okay, so I sanded down the sole, and the last thing I'm going to do is work on this leather toe. So I am going to take my Wonder Balsam. I could do this with the leather lotion as well, but I'm gonna try the balsam first, and I'll probably let these sit for a day or two and see if the leather looks any better or not. Okay. So you just want to be careful that you don't get the leather balsam on the suede. You can kind of see how that's like shining up. Definitely looks a little nicer. And then we'll just see how the leather responds to the balsam. And hopefully it will be a little nicer. Okay, so there we go. You can see it kind of has a sheen to it. And someone might not mind, it almost has that like croco embossed look to it. And as long as the leather doesn't end up cracking further, someone may like that look. So you might wonder to yourself, like, why I would bother to put so much time into a shoe like this that maybe I can, you know, get lucky and make $40, $45 from. And for me, and for a lot of other vintage sellers, it's not so much about the quick flip or like finding something and being like, oh, I can make like 75 bucks off that. It's more about the preservation, and vintage shoes are definitely hard to find. This sort of style, you know, with that narrow look, it's just, you just can't find it as easily anymore. So it's more about saving this sort of stuff and making it wearable again, and that is why I do this. So I'm going to do the other one of these shoes, which is right here, and we will touch base and start another pair. Okay, so the next pair here is a pair of vintage 9 West heels. They are just a little like loafer type heel with a kind of a little bit of a platform right up here in the front. And they do have a very nice like grippy sole, foam. I imagine these are actually very comfortable to wear. But they're dusty and dirty, and I'm going to give them a little bit of a cleanup. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take my Clorox wipe, just kind of wipe it down. Get that nice and clean. I'm going to do the insole as well, making sure to get the sides and the back. And then I don't want it to stay wet on the inside, so I'm going to wipe that out. And you might notice that I now have a towel over my lap. That last pair of shoes was very messy, so I decided to put down a towel to catch anything like the eraser droppings or the sandpaper stuff. And that is why I have a towel on my lap now. So one of the things you can do with patent leather, and I'm not sure that these are patent leather, I don't think they are, but one of the things you can do to restore shine is actually to spray Pledge furniture polish on them. And I learned that one from a cobbler. But it is basically a coated leather, so it has like a plastic coating over it, and you can use Pledge to kind of restore the shine. Now these are in overall pretty good shape, but you can see right here where the shoe meets, and you can really see it better on this side, there is a bit of like almost cracking that's starting here. So what I'm going to do with these, because they already have a pretty nice sheen here, is I'm going to use the leather lotion. I'm going to try and take the microfiber cloth and just spray some in here, and that's what it looks like. It literally looks like lotion. I'm going to rub it into the cloth, and then I'm just going to sort of like work on it. And try and penetrate those areas that are a little more cracked. And then I'll do the rest of the shoe for consistency. And once you put the leather lotion on, you also have to wipe it off. This has a little piece of glitter on it. There we go. So I'm going to wipe it off with the cotton cloth and just sort of like buff it. And when you buff something, you want to go in circles, so it's not back and forth, it's in circles. And that just prevents lines from showing up. Okay, so there are still the cracks, or almost cracks, over here, but we have at least lotioned them a bit. So what I'm actually going to do with these is with the leather lotion, you need to let it sit for a while. So I'm going to let these sit for 24 hours. And before I go to list them, I'm actually going to use the Wonder Balsam to kind of like give it a top coating. And then I'll probably let it sit for another 24 hours. And then I'll see what kind of shape the leather is in when I'm ready to list the item. So here's the other shoe. And I will go ahead and clean these up, and I'll be back. Okay, I have 2 more pairs I want to do on camera with you. The next pair is this Impo pair of sandals, and they are studded, and they're really cool. White leather, but they have this glue residue here. So I'm going to see what I can do about that, and then you can kind of see the sole is cracking a bit, so I'm going to see how bad that is and how it cleans up. So again, the first thing I'm going to do, just sort of like gently wipe these down with my cloth, Clorox wipe. I'm going to wipe down the gluey sides, wipe down the studs, and the sole. And then I always want to go back over with my cotton cloth and just make sure that it's not sitting for too long on the leather. Don't want it to sit too long on the inside. You need to make sure you dry it off afterwards. So luckily, this does not seem to be coming up at all, which is good because it would kind of be a deal breaker if it did, because no one wants, you know, part of the shoe coming up while they're walking around. And so the next thing I'm going to do is try and get that residue off from the glue. So I'm going to take my microfiber cloth. This is the corner I had my leather lotion in from the last shoes. Add a little more. I'm going to see if I can get any of this off with leather lotion. One thing you can do with leather lotion is let it sit directly on the leather for a while. So I'm going to let this sit for a minute while I go upstairs and grab one more tool that might help me get this off. Okay, so this is what it still looks like with the leather lotion on. Try rubbing it again. And not really making too much of a difference. A little bit, not a lot. So what I'm going to do now is use acetone, or nail polish remover, and Q-tip. You can also use alcohol. Alcohol-based solvents will break down adhesives, and they will also remove stains.
I almost done with that.
Yeah, now I have one more pair and then I'll come up, okay?
Okay.
Alrighty.
I'm going to keep you company.
Alright, so you can see that acetone is working. It did take off this residue, this glue. Unfortunately, at the same time, it also created this, it like started to take off the gold of this, and honestly, I'm not sure that these are going to be in good enough condition for me to sell. I think once they get worn, they will crack. You can kind of see, like, they're just not that supple anymore. Okay, so in the end, I decided that these were not going to work out, and I'm just going to get rid of them. But it is good for me to know and to be able to experiment that acetone did take off that glue residue for the most part. Okay, so the final pair I want to do with you guys is this pair of Air Steps. They are very dirty, very yucky, but I think that they can be saved. They have leather soles and a stacked wood heel. And yeah, so the very first thing I'm going to do is to just get one of these, you know, cloths, and I'm actually going to get a nice fresh one. Just give it a rub down. Now, this insole is coming up. I could glue it back down, but I am not going to, and the reason for that is that someone may want to remove these insoles and put their own insole in. And if I glue it down, it'll make it much harder for them to do that. So this is just filthy. Ugh. The Dr. Martens is really good for kind of restoring the finish to a shoe, but not great at cleaning it. So I'm actually gonna, there's still some browning here, which I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Well, it's right up in here, there's some browning. So I'm going to take my leather lotion and try and work on that. So with leather lotion, if you let it sit, that's when it can really do its work. Not necessarily for moisturizing, but for cleaning. So if I want to clean a spot with leather lotion, I need to let it sit for a minute. I've got some polish coming off here. So I'm gonna use my polish to touch that up. So once I get these cleaned with the leather lotion, then I'll use my polish to touch up the toe. After I use the polish to touch up the toe, I will then let that dry for a little bit, and then I will use the Dr. Martens and give it an overall rub down with the Dr. Martens. So these are already much nicer shape than they were. I wish there wasn't glare, but there you go. Much nicer shape. They are not dirty anymore. Okay, now the polish. So what I'm going to do with the polish is just get my brown polish. Normally I would use their little polish dauber, but because this is such a small area, I'm actually going to use a Q-tip. And I just, so let's see if I can do this with you. Alright, so here's the damage up in here. It's a perfect match, the colors, so I'm just rubbing it in with the Q-tip. Just giving it a nice polish coating. Making sure I get in all the little creases. Alright. I think that's good. And then I'll let this dry for a minute. And then I'll buff it out. Okay, so I let that dry. I'm going to take the buffing cloth that came with my kit. And I tried to do one side brown, one side black. You can see I used the brown a lot more than the black, but I'm just gonna you can see how it's kind of matte right now. And I'm just gonna buff it, and you're gonna notice that it shines up. Alright, so you can see how it's shinier now. Then I would take that Dr. Martens. I'm just going to give the whole shoe a gentle application of the Dr. Martens. I went ahead and did the same process with the other one, where I just left on the leather lotion so that it would clean up. And so I'm going to finish that up, and I will be done cleaning shoes for today. So I hope that you enjoyed coming along with me while I did this, and I hope that you learned a few things and it wasn't too repetitive or monotonous. If you have any shoe cleaning tips, go ahead and drop them in the comments down below. I'd love to hear them. If you found anything particularly useful, let me know. Also, if you like these videos, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I am trying to grow it, and your support is very much appreciated. And if you could also give me a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate that as well. So I hope that I will see you for my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!